and welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, where we talk about nothing. And now your host, the girl who makes animal noises in her spare time on a now discontinued YouTube channel, Red Romina. And now your second host, the girl who's finally seen at least one episode of The Wonder Years and is otherwise oblivious to pop culture, Audrey Ember. And your final host, a man who takes pleasure in torturing his friends, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, episode number 8. This is episode number 8.
We're on episode 8. That's
Wow.
awesome.
You realize we just passed the threshold for when most people quit their podcast?
Yay. Now we just have to keep it up. Who was it who said we wouldn't last like more than 3 episodes or something?
Whoever it was and everything like that, owes us a freaking apology and maybe some cookies. We demand apologies to be made public as well as freshly baked goods. We deserve these things, and we shall have them.
We shall have them.
We shall have them. They are owed to us.
I did order some Girl Scouts cookies.
Samoas are bust.
Girl Scouts cookies are overrated.
No! Blasphemy!
Oh,
Dare you?
my goodness.
You cannot
How
convince
dare
me otherwise.
How
Oh my
dare
goodness.
you?
Wait, what ones did you order, Romina?
Which ones did I order? I don't remember. Because, like, when you order online, you have to order a minimum of 5 boxes. So I just get 5 different ones. You can't order just, like, one and have it delivered to you, you know?
Someone said, Nick says wrong.
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 Oh my god.
The one thing we can thank President Trump for is the memes.
Wow.
True. Has anyone figured out what RST is?
Yeah, does everybody know what RST is?
Yes. Roberto Standard Time, a.k.a. late. Yes.
We should change your banner, Romina. I think it'd be funny. It might be a little confusing, but...
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit confusing. I mean, we want people to know at what time they need to tune in to the show.
They should know. It's Roberto.
Even if sometimes we're
I was on time, damn it.
Digging the warm tones, Roberto. Roberto's live streaming right now with a new little setup.
A slightly new setup, mostly a new desk.
Do you want to tell us about it?
It is a fully standing desk. It is the Jarvis standing desk, and it is a laminate whiteboard desk. So I can doodle and make notes and everything like that. Inspired by my friend, my good homie, Sarah Dici, rhymes with Peachy. And so, yeah, I've got this new desk set up. I am not currently rocking my 49-inch monitor. That is downstairs, and that thing is almost as tall as me. I will probably make an unboxing video about that this weekend and then install it. But I just wanted to get up and running with my usual setup. And,
Cool.
yeah.
Have you doodled anything on the desk yet, or is it still...
I did, but I erased it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is. It's nifty.
So right now, are you at a new height, or are you still like at your normal?
It's a little higher right now.
Okay, I thought so. That's what it looked like compared to like the bookshelf in the back.
Yeah, and that's like, oh, good eye, dead eye. And so yeah, dead eye Romina. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, so that's a whole thing.
Amazing.
One thing. Actually, give me one quick second.
The updates of quarantine. How high is your
The
guest?
traveling clat says, "I'm ready to get narped, y'all."
Wow.
The one thing I
'Cause
have
we
to
are
get
NARP.
used to is that if I
The one thing we need to get used to is Roberto. Oh, sorry. I was just. You put his
making fun of
headphones
me?
back on. What?
The one thing I have to get used to is like, because it's a laminate desk, it's like everything kind of shows up on the surface of this, so I'm constantly finding myself being OCD about wiping it down.
Oh, do you need to have a special, like, do you have like a little special liquid for it, like whiteboard stuff to keep it clean and everything?
Kind of. It'll work, like, in many ways, it's just like a regular desk in that regard, but like, as far as wiping off the markers, I just use the regular dry erase stuff, and I have all the dry erase things, because as you know, I do have my whiteboard over yonder. Let me see if I can actually move the camera in such a way as where people can see it. Yeah, so over there, we have my mobile whiteboard, aka the whiteboard of truth and justice. So, yeah.
We got super close up to Roberto's face there.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I want to jump into this ASAP because something important, something
Momentous.
extremely important,
Something momentous.
something momentous. The gravity of it is just, it's too much to hold off. So, our dearest Audrey Ember.
What if I just lied and said that I watched them, but I actually haven't?
No, because I'll quiz you.
Ooh,
It's not April 1st, Audrey.
it's always April 1st.
What? All right. Our dearest Audrey has finally dived into the Wonder Years. So, Audrey, you told us, you claim that you've watched the first 2 episodes of the Wonder Years.
I want to substantiate these claims.
What was this experience like for you? Could you please walk us through this? What were you doing when you watched it? What were you wearing? Where did you watch it? Were you eating anything? We need all the details.
Witnesses corroborate this story?
Well, I guess Romina could check her Hulu and see if I watched it. So you could do that.
I could do that.
Yes. Which I thought of, so I made sure I watched it.
Well played, Miss Ember.
I literally watched it like 3 hours ago because I remember.
Oh, and you knew I was going to go in on you
Yes.
if you did. Yeah, okay.
So I watched it not long ago, and it was good. Yeah. It was kind of like, I haven't watched an older TV show.
Or a TV show from an older period even, which is what this is. It's both an older TV show, because it's literally before your time, and it's a time that was before our time even.
Right.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because I've seen like clips and stuff, but I've never sat down and like actually watched one.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool.
So it's interesting to see what, like, theoretically growing up 60, 70 years ago might have looked like.
Yeah, and that's like my dad's like time when he was like growing up. So
yeah.
I mean, like, he was a young like adult kind of. So that was kind of cool.
Like, yeah, so it literally, like, it's the time that he grew up in. He would have been like Kevin Arnold or one of Kevin Arnold's friends.
Right.
I'm not good with the names yet, so
The
don't.
main character, the little boy, the main character.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit older than him.
So he would have been like his older brother then.
He would have been more like the guy who died in the first or second episode.
Brian Cooper.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. So you have in fact watched the show. Okay.
Yes, see, there's my proof.
Yeah, his name was Brian Cooper.
Yeah.
Do you know what war he died in?
The Vietnam War.
There you go.
I know these things. See?
All right.
I watched it.
Things. Or you read Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Gabe says that she read the summary.
I read the Spark Notes. No, I watched it.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So
it was good. I mean, you guys are making it seem like it was legendary, so I feel like the standards were pretty high.
It is. The longer you watch it, it's like it's pretty.
Yeah.
It is.
What made you guys like?
It shaped the scope of our entire childhood. It shaped the scope of our entire childhood.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's some like nostalgia to it for us, but also for the people who lived in that time period as well.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of an interesting way of like bridging these generations.
Growing up and watching the Wonder Years made you understand your parents and grandparents, because my mom would have grown up in the same age as my mom would have theoretically. My mom was born in 1962, so she would have been like probably younger than these kids, but like my grandmother would have been a young adult during that time. You know, she would have been probably the same age, like not unlike your parents. My grandmother probably would have been like the same age as Brian Cooper at that time. So it's a way to kind of connect. It's kind of a way to connect with your older relatives. It like when I was growing up, it made me appreciate like this is what people before me lived through and what they lived like and what that was. Okay, cool. I now have a point of reference, and kids who grew up back then grew up and had similar experiences like to me. Now, your generation might not have had similar experiences to like me and Romina and the like, because me and Romina were the last generation that probably fully relates to the childhood experience of the Wonder Years.
Yeah.
Your generation might relate more to the childhood experience in like Boy Meets World, which you probably haven't. Like, do you?
Yeah, have you seen the Wonder Years? I mean, the Boy Meets World.
No.
I see.
Should that be next?
See, my youngest sister is the same age as Audrey, and yes, that should be next, and it's more recent. That's from the 90s. So, we are the same age as the kids from Boy Meets World, like me and Romina are. So, like, interestingly, the actor, Fred Savage, who plays Kevin Arnold, his younger brother, Ben, is the main character in Boy Meets World. So they both ended up doing coming of age TV sitcoms of different eras. One did it in the 80s and one did it in the 90s.
That's cool.
It's kind of the family business, I guess.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I think the thing about the Wonder Years is because of, I mean, like Roberto kind of touched on this, which is the relatability aspect of it. So I too, like, I started watching the Wonder Years. I'm on episode 3 now because you were supposed to watch the first 3 episodes, but
I thought it was 2.
We'll go with 2.
I will keep watching.
And I think, like, looking back on it, the show just has a certain feel which really sells on the nostalgia factor of it all, but I feel like it does it in a way that
it's not patronizing.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what it is, where it's very unique in that there really aren't a lot of shows, I feel like, that are able to do that, where it's nostalgic, because like the Angry Beavers is nostalgic to me, but like not everybody can relate to the Angry Beavers.
Rugrats.
Yeah, but they're just nostalgic because we grew up like seeing these images, and like those images kind of they bring about other images from like our real life or childhood or environments where we watched it and stuff like that.
Everybody has that like first childhood crush. Everybody has that that like best friend or that friend that they end up having like a fight or a falling out with. Everybody has that first childhood or young adulthood experience with like a relative, an older relative finally passing away, or somebody, or even not an older relative. Like, again, Kevin Arnold's like when Brian Cooper dies in the first episode, he has that first experience and brush with somebody who wasn't old dying, and it makes them start to think about the idea of mortality, you know? Like, oh, you can die without having to be old. You know? Yeah. Like, that's a whole thing, and it's like, and it also is a really interesting commentary on the suburbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the relatability of parents and kids, like when, like, you know, there's a point where you'll watch this later, like where Kevin starts to try to identify with his father as a person, He tries to actually get to know Jack as a person.
And not just as the
Dad.
character of Dad.
There's a point where he starts to have to reconcile. It's like there's a point where he starts to realize, you know, before they had us, Jack and Norma were people. Like, Jack and Norma were two crazy kids.
I mean, you already see that in the second episode when they get the book, what was it called? Everything You Need to Know About Sex and More.
But we're afraid to ask.
Right. So they get the book, and then Norma's like, she's like,
it's not that
she's
you
like,
have
it's
this
not
book.
that you have the book. It's like, what were you doing in my dresser?
Yeah.
And then the two sons, like, I don't know who was more mortified, Kevin or Wayne. I don't know who was more mortified.
I don't think the older one was there.
Huh?
Yeah, it was just Kevin. Kevin was the only one who was there.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
I watched it 3 hours.
No, well, because he actually walked out of the room like right before she said that. So that's why you think he was in there, because he was in the room when she discovered it.
Well, yeah, I know Paul was out of the room because he tried to make off with the book.
Right.
Like, I know he was gone. I didn't know that Wayne had left. I thought he had got in on that too. But I love that little liner he had about that tacit. Like, we had the silent unspoken agreement. They wouldn't talk about my book, and I wouldn't talk about theirs.
But yeah, I mean, that brings up what you were saying, the point of like their parents, and that's something that I only recently had discovered about my own parents, and not really through like my own experience, but actually through like an Instagram post or something that I saw on social media, where it was like, wow, parents were people before they became parents. But the thing is that a lot of parents forget to become people again afterwards.
That's interesting.
And so that distinction becomes a little bit harder to notice.
And when you become an adult and your parents are adults, like, there's a thing where you have to now finally settle old accounts and reconcile that it's like, I may be your child, but I'm not a child anymore. I am now on equal footing with you. I've now lived many years. You still are my elder, but like, I've lived years. I've got experience. I am no longer naive, and it's no longer your responsibility to guide me. I'm someone who's come to their own conclusions and has their own ideas about things, and I have a right to those things. Like, there's a point where you end up having to challenge your parents, and you have to, kind of somewhat assert that it's like, our relationship dynamic has changed. Like, and
they're not the alpha anymore.
Yeah, and that you want to be acknowledged in that, in in your power, in your ascension. Like, to be a little heady about it.
Mm-hmm. Audrey's laughing because she's had to deal with that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about that, Audrey?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just over here sipping. I mean, it's all right if you don't want to talk about it, but I
just don't know what to say.
All right.
Like, that's definitely been a common theme for like the past year for me.
Right, because you're starting to branch off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think the thing is, you're still a very young adult. You are an adult, but you're still a very young adult.
Yes.
And I think that you understand and appreciate that, and that I think you appreciate that respect isn't given, it's earned, in the sense that there is a such thing as like proving yourself, and that not only do you have the right to make your own decisions, but you've proven that you're capable of making good ones.
So far.
Keyword, so far.
It's okay.
And to our knowledge.
But part of it is also reconciling that your parents haven't been perfect the entire time and haven't made good decisions every single time either. So
I think that's why they've been a little bit more like, because like as it's gone on, like my parents have told me, like, we just wanted you to make sure that you were actually sure on your decisions. That's kind of like one of the reasons they've been so hard, like at the beginning on some of my choices, because they wanted to make sure I was determined and sure of them before
I don't think it was to
actually-
undermine you, which is the thing that most young adults mistake, like parental harshness or prodding for, like challenging. If you crumple and you fold and you're not firm in your decisions under a little bit of pressure or disapproval from them, it means you weren't committed. And that's the secret test that they don't tell you, is that if you're not willing to stand up to me, then how are you going to actually do the thing that you want to do? How are you going to face the world if you can't stand up to me? How are you going to face the world?
Yeah.
And how are you going to face the consequences of your actions if you can't even stand up for your own choices to me and are not willing to defy me? Like,
That's a really good point.
Yeah, that was a good conversation I had with my mom, like, last fall or something, because I hadn't really realized that. And then she literally, because I was talking about a friend who was making a similar, like, choice, and it came up. And she was like, well, why do you think, like, obviously I'm worried, but I want you to prove that, like, you can actually follow through with this and, like, do it. And I was like, oh my God, 'cause I didn't really thought about it from that perspective, so.
I wouldn't have thought of it from that perspective at your age either. Like, I only have the benefit of my years of experience that now passes wisdom.
Right. You've already you've skipped ahead like a whole decade, Audrey. Slow down.
Okay.
But maybe because, like,
I don't think so.
there's some benefit to, there's only so much help, there's only so much foresight that isn't cheating.
Yeah.
I've got
Were you
foresight.
actually like, oh my God.
If you knew the future and you benefited from that future knowledge, it means any power that you gained wasn't really earned. So, like, there's a point where you have to earn something through the hardship and risk of experience. If you knew the certain future, then there was no risk, which means if there was no risk on the table, then, you know, you didn't have to vet your decision-making process in any way, because you already knew the outcome. There was so nothing ventured, nothing gained. You gained the outcome, but not the wisdom and knowledge and not the confidence that really comes from testing yourself. And that's why it's okay to risk failure. You have to risk failure. That's why people get stagnant and don't grow in life, is because they have this crappy tutorial that makes them not risk failure.
Oh, that's the next episode, Roberto. No spoilers. What?
It is?
Yeah, life's got
Yeah,
a crappy
that's
tutorial.
episode 9 of NARP.
Yeah, life's got a crappy tutorial.
All right,
Episode
everybody's got a spoiler now.
Yeah. No, we got a teaser.
It's not a spoiler, it's a
No, we
teaser.
prepared one episode in advance. Since when?
We like.
We're
no, just,
oh no, and we got episode 10 too. You don't know.
No,
I
not
got
really.
this.
Not really.
I got
I don't
this.
know. Like, it's evolved from a conversation from something I brought up in the previous episode. Like, that's where the evolution of, like, have you not noticed that we've actually seeded and teased, like, every next episode in one way or another with the previous episodes?
True.
I mean, even this Wonder Years thing has been 3 episodes in the making.
Yeah, we're consistent.
It's a story. They follow.
Yeah, it's
story
a
arc.
story. There's a
Story
narrative.
arc.
We have a we have a narrative.
Very interesting narrative.
We have a small but loyal following.
Yes, I've been.
Well, did you
uploading
guys
them-
retweet?
No. Hold on.
Of
Let
course
me
not.
check my
I'm the only one
notifications.
who's tweeting and pushing this thing
Let me-
out. Come on,
I always
guys.
retweet. Come on, I retweet. Where,
I
like,
just retweeted.
All right. While the other co-hosts are retweeting, I will entertain the audience that we have. So today, I decided to
This is a thrilling story.
I got
tweeted,
distracted.
come hang out
typing.
live with us and talk
I
about
got
nothing.
distracted by the typing.
Sorry, I forgot to mute my mic while I did that. Yeah.
It was so loud. It was like
It's a mechanical
clink,
keyboard.
clink,
It's
clink,
like
clink,
it's
clink, clink.
yeah, it's a mechanical keyboard. It's perfect for my wrist. I have no
Audrey,
carpal
can you
tunnel.
describe that thing that you have in your hand right now? What is this?
It's a straw, but I don't really use it, so it's just something to fiddle with. I'm always fiddling. Sorry if it's like in screen for no reason.
I know what to get you one day. A fidget spinner.
A fidget spinner.
No.
Yeah.
You know what? I had a
No.
really great fidget spinner. I have no idea where it is.
Mine is around here somewhere. Mine is amazing.
Mine's
What's better
really,
than
really
fidget
good one.
spinners? It's those really squishy, like balls.
I like the
Way
stress
more
balls. Like, actually, let me just order a new
stressful.
one off of Amazon right now.
What? Are you kidding me right now? Are you
What?
really going to
It's not
stop
an
in the middle of
essential
our
item.
broadcast? He's...
Look at it.
Yeah. Number one, it's not an essential item. Number two, how dare you stop the flow of this podcast to get on Amazon and purchase a
I can do more
non-essential
than one
stress
thing.
ball.
I can literally do more than one thing at once, Romina. I can probably do 3 things at once. And I mean,
Wow.
Is that a challenge?
Weird
I mean,
flex,
right-
but okay.
Right now, I'm ordering this stress ball from Amazon, and I'm still continuing my duties as a host on this podcast.
Wait,
Wow.
Romina, what were you gonna say until the typing happened?
I don't know. I didn't have a
Oh my
story.
god.
Oh wow!
All
there's
right,
so many
guys.
options.
This is
I didn't realize how much of a variety of stress balls there are.
yeah. There's a lot of stress balls.
Wow, this might
Yeah.
take more thought than I originally
Of course,
considered.
Roberto.
I'd have to be more thoughtful than this in my endeavors.
For those of you who are just tuning in to the live stream, thanks for joining us today. We know that you guys are all so busy and have so much going on.
Was that sarcasm?
There was a slight sarcasm involved there. Not trying to throw shade at our current viewers or anything.
Welcome to NARP, where we just
what-
roast our viewers.
Welcome to NARP, where we completely alienate our audience.
Yeah, our audience is the best audience, right? They participate, they make us feel good, and that's what we need in this time of NARP.
The era.
Yeah, in this time of era.
This
in this time of
era.
I actually have been literally thinking of, like, with this whole everything that's going on. Like, I mean, are we literally going to end up calling this like the Corona era? Is that like what this is going to become?
I guess.
I mean,
Because I mean, it is
of the Corona?
defining a period of time in the world. It really is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like the Black Plague.
Mm.
I
mean,
feel
it's our
like
modern
Corona
analog.
plague.
It's our only modern analog to it. I wouldn't go so far in the severity of it, but
Oh no, right, absolutely. That's not what I meant by it. I meant it
hear
more
you.
in the
It's our modern analog to
Right.
I get that. Like
Right.
I understand that to be what you
like
meant.
turning point in history.
Yeah,
It is. Right.
defining moment.
A defining moment
Yeah.
in history. So
Yeah.
fun fact, Audrey, we're gonna go back to the Wonder Years. You know the gym coach?
Coach
Yes.
Cutlet.
So he is the doctor on Star Trek Voyager.
Wow.
You would know that.
That's such a random, like, only
But no,
Romina would know
that's
that
a perfect
fact.
Romina factoid though. That is literally a perfect Romina factoid.
Don't get too excited now. All this trivia I'm throwing at
Oh
you.
my god. Yeah, you should make me, since we're in quarantine, I need a movie list to
Okay.
like catch up on the
done.
ones that I missed.
Oh, we can.
So not like
certainly-
new ones, like ones that I need to watch to be a cultural person.
We will make you a modern Renaissance woman.
We will culture you so hard.
Yes.
Indeed.
I will set up a Google Doc
Wow.
and
A spreadsheet.
I can add something. Oh yes. Should
If it
we do
wasn't
a
for this
spreadsheet?
coronavirus, I would literally institute like a manual like movie night and then like also a game night, hosted at my
Yeah.
house, of course.
We'll do a spreadsheet. I'll add some stuff in there. I'll send them over to Roberto, and he can review, analyze, and input some suggestions as well. Without going overboard, let's not give
Well,
her
to
100
get
titles.
all the pop movie, like all the appropriate pop culture
It has to be
references,
doable.
She has to. It is doable. For one thing, she has to watch the
Okay.
entire Back to the Future trilogy.
Oh my god.
Wait, you haven't seen those?
It's just doable. And then you're like, the entire. I have seen some of them.
No, it's because you don't understand. You have to watch all 3 of them because all 3 of them are equally as good.
Oh,
But
for a
they're
second I got
also-
mixed up with Star Trek, and I was like, "Oh my god, there's so many episodes."
But Back to the
it's
Future.
okay, I
No.
But Back to the Future, to do Back to the Future, the thing is, it's such a relevant point in pop culture. There's so many, like, things that in pop culture that come from it. Like, it's like, in fact, all of Rick and Morty is just a spin off of, like, 80s pop culture.
Yeah.
Everything in Rick and Morty that you may or may not understand is a meta reference to stuff me and Romina grew up with.
Nice.
There's definitely a lot of stuff that you can watch, but okay, so you've seen the first Back to the Future.
I mean, I probably should rewatch it because it's been a while. Like, I don't really remember.
I can quote almost line for
Ooh.
line.
Andrew, who is watching live, says we need some Disney Channel original movies on that list.
Well, here's the
Depends on. I would say maybe the very, very early ones.
Like, what?
the Lizzie McGuire movie.
Yeah, the Lizzie McGuire movie is probably a really good one too.
She can also watch the Disney version of Cinderella that has Brandy in it.
These like.
I'll let you have that one, Roberto.
Okay.
It has to be a doable list. Priorities.
Okay,
That
priorities.
one's not a priority. It's
Definitely
just
not. Yeah.
It's not a priority, but it's a good reference point for a couple of things. And one of the things that's a good reference point is the argument for reimagining modern retellings of historical like properties, because there's an argument in nostalgia culture for just leave our stuff alone and do something else. Primary example, they're talking about doing a Doogie Howser remake, but casting a female lead from an immigrant background, but somehow also calling her Doogie, but like her last name isn't going to be Hauser. But I'm like, if you're going to just do that, then just give her have nothing to do with Doogie Howser, but lift the entire premise of a 16-year-old doctor. Like, just have a kid doctor and just lift the entire premise of Doogie Howser. And if you really want to tie it to that nostalgia property in some way, bring in Neil Patrick Harris as an adult of because again, the person who Doogie Howser grew up to be, and just do that. And don't really continue his story, make him a cameo, but make it the universe that he lives in. You see what I'm saying? It's like where, this reminds me of something, and you just kind of revisit that. So that's my thought is because I'm starting to agree with people, but here's my big thing. I want both of your opinions on this. My issue with nostalgic properties is this.
Uh-oh.
I don't mind reboots and remakes, and I take them as their own movie. And I leave it alone, and I don't sit there and I don't obsess about how my beloved character or my beloved actor or actress was treated, and I don't do that, okay? I just go, I watch it and it's entertaining, or it's not, and I move on with my life, and I don't really care. But because the other nerds are not nearly as forgiving with these nostalgic properties, my answer is this. You can revisit that universe, and everyone that you grew up with and that you beloved back in the day is dead. You've killed your favorite original characters. They're dead, and they're never coming back, and all you get is flashbacks and we reference them in a journal entry, and that's it. They're dead, and no, I don't care if the original actors are alive. We're not touching that, because you people appreciate nothing, and you've made up your own fan fiction in your head, and if we don't manifest your fan fiction or fan theories onto the screen, all you're going to do is bitch and moan. So no, you can't have nice things. We're going to take that universe and we're going to put our toys in there and we're going to play with them, and you're going to either come back for that universe or you're not, and we'll just get the new fans, and that's how it is. And we'll just use the universe and the rules of that universe, and we will reference those old characters you grew up with, and you will never see or hear from them again. They're dead. We buried them. And I'm ruthless about that, because it's been proven that fans cannot handle you doing anything that they don't agree with their old nostalgic characters. They want to remember that I want to remember you this way. It's like just, so fine.
Yeah, I kind of feel like when that happens, I just decide to not watch the new thing. Like for instance, I would like to remember The Lion King the way that I saw it. And I've chosen to not watch the new Lion King because
I think that's perfectly acceptable.
I don't feel like having new memories with the same exact story, same exact characters, nothing new, just new technology.
I feel that way about sequels to some extent. You know what?
Yeah, no, I feel that way too about that certain stuff. But
I was fine with The American Tail ending right where it did, although I like Fievel Goes West, but everything after that is just kind of trash, and I kind of feel that way about The Land Before Time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how do you feel about The Land Before Time 27?
I watched and obsessed over all those sequels when I was a child, but as I got older, I just was like, they're still doing these?
Yeah, and they still are.
The continuity was, I also think they messed up the continuity, like, to a ridiculous degree.
Right. But going back to the list, someone suggested, who was it? Stanley suggested 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Now, I'm going to say I'm not going to add that one to the list.
I can live with that one being a reboot.
I think instead of that one, I'd like to add Swiss Family Robinson to the list.
Okay. Oh, you know what's a good reboot, though, by the way? Lost in Space is a fantastic reboot on Netflix.
Maybe I'm going to disagree with that.
Have you watched all 3 seasons so far?
No.
How far did you get into it? And
I watched the whole first season. I did not. I was not.
Okay. What did you not like about it?
I don't know if I want to get into it.
I like Dr. Smith being a female and being a sociopath. I love that.
I think for me, it was just
I love
the entertainment value of it wasn't there for me. I mean, like aesthetically, it was nice to look at. Like the set design and all that was really cool. But aside from that, it was all very like.
I thought the casting was good. I like the story. I like the deeper family dynamic thing. Like I watched the original Lost in Space, but I don't feel it held up. I don't feel the original Lost in Space held up, and I don't think the movie that they did a couple of years ago, I thought it was okay, but I thought that trying to cram everything that Lost in Space is into a 2-hour movie was ill-conceived. And it didn't give it, obviously when you do that kind of thing, there's not a character development. I loved the new Lost in Space's character development.
See, I didn't like any of the characters. They were all annoying, and if they all died on that planet, I totally would have been okay with it.
I was attached more to the parents. Annoyed the hell out of me, but I thought it was interesting, and I became hopeful because I thought it was their whole. Like, well, when you watch more seasons, their whole, are we still getting a divorce kind of, like, or are we still a family thing? That actually gets really interesting, and it gets really into, like, depending on your own relationship with your family, you could take it or leave it, but if you're a child of divorce, you'll really feel attached to that storyline. Right. And I think that if you're an adopted or a foster child or a half sibling, or you have one, you'll really love the father-daughter relationship in that story as well. And then if you're like the weird kid, or you always have like felt not sure of yourself, it'll be great to watch Will Robinson become his own person and not have to be in the shadow of his older siblings or of his parents, and like where he stops worrying about letting everyone down and starts to gain some real confidence. Like that's those. So again, I watched it for the character development of I could find very interesting things to relate to, or to think I know that person in each of those characters. I liked with the father. I liked how his. I liked it. I thought it was interesting, an interesting choice of how he reacted to his role being diminished or being replaced in every single facet and capacity, and the fact that like essentially it was very interesting to see him react to being like almost made either irrelevant, redundant, or unnecessary in every aspect, and how you could see how devastating it was to him, but he didn't take it out on his family. That was an interesting angle, I think.
Well, I'm going to bring this back to Audrey. Connor suggested some David Lynch films, which maybe, I mean, we don't want to go into the whole of like adding an entire repertoire of like a single director. Like if it was up to me, I would be like, oh yeah, you got to watch all of Wes Anderson. But
Soderbergh.
I feel like we should limit it to maybe one or two, like for one of those big directors, you know, so that we don't go into like this huge list.
She has to watch Hook.
Oh, you have to watch Hook. You know what? It's available. It's on Netflix, I think.
I think so.
Is it on Netflix? It might be on Stars.
I wonder if Hook is the movie that made me fall in love with Julia Roberts as a kid.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Oh, what about Pretty Woman?
That might have been it too. Like, it really might have been.
Should we add that to the list?
That's a good one. She should. There's pop culture.
There's a lot of. I mean, doesn't Family Guy reference Pretty Woman?
Constantly.
Yeah.
But there's a lot there with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, and there's a lot of social commentary in there that's relevant today.
Mm-hmm. I just looked up Hook and I got pictures of actual hooks. So.
Could you please say that again?
It's one of the defining roles of Robin Williams' career.
Did you hear what she said?
Oh my god!
Yeah, she got pictures of actual hooks.
She looked up a hook.
Like it's type in like Hook Robin Williams, and Robin Williams, Julia Roberts, Dustin Hoffman, Dante Bosco, and I can't remember any of the other actors. I don't think, but I think
this is a good one. This is a good one. Definitely Hook. I'm gonna add that to the list. Rufio. Audrey's looking at us.
She doesn't know. She'll understand. There's a whole thing. That's a whole thing.
Oh yeah,
that's a whole thing.
When you get to Rufio, you're gonna be like Rufio.
Rufio. Yeah, there's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Trust me. This is like a thing of like for two entire generations. Like it's before your time. But
you know what we should do is I can make the spreadsheet on Google, and then we can share the spreadsheet with our audience. Not for them to edit.
Now all I want to do is do a movie review channel with you guys, but we're like, that's just one more project too many. Swear to God.
We can incorporate it.
It'll be incorporated into this. Right. Where we casually discuss it.
Well, give us something other than YouTube to talk about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we made this podcast to not talk about YouTube stuff and like...
Right, and to not talk about the state of the world.
Well, I don't mind if we occasionally talk about the state of the world.
Right, but not as like a theme.
No.
Every time you do that, it just looks like you're
leave that to Joe Rogan.
Yeah, we'll leave that to Joe Rogan. Oh, why is it on your finger like that? Why is it on your finger?
Wacky arm flailing inflatable tube man.
Alex bets that will never watch any of these
she'll watch Hook.
Wow.
No, she'll watch Hook because we'll shame her.
We will kick her out of the podcast.
What?
No, we won't take it that far. We'll just shame her every time we're on air until she does.
That's what happened with Wonder Years.
Exactly, it works. It works.
It works. Time. Peer pressure.
It's super effective. Roberto and Romina use peer pressure. It's super effective. Does everyone know that reference?
It's not a noodle, Gabe.
Gabe wasn't
a straw.
Apparently.
Yeah, he wasn't paying attention to the podcast. For those of you who are listening and not tuning in live, for those of you who are listening after the fact, you are missing out on the live aspect of our show, which is recorded live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern
live
Standard
internet
Time.
Audience.
with a live internet audience.
The No Assembly Required podcast is filmed in front of a live studio audience via the interwebs.
With a Z. Interwebs with a Z. So if you guys want to tune in, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're at No Assembly Pod. And you can find us there.
On Instagram.
Maybe you can.
Instagram.
You can be in charge of posting whenever we go live. You can post on Instagram because I've been doing that on Twitter. I can't do both.
Okay, I'll do that.
I mean, you can probably post you can take photos of us from wherever on the internet, Audrey, and you can post a quotable from an episode or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll figure out some.
Your quote for today is "That looks like a noodle."
Either that or the No Assembly Pod can Instagram could become a meme account.
It could. Yeah, we could just be.
Okay, we know. Oh, we got Audrey excited about something.
I'll just post quotes from podcast episodes.
You can. You can also
out of context quotes, and so it's go watch the new episode or listen because
or cancel us.
Understand.
All right,
or you can just cancel us for out of context quotes.
We can talk about our social media strategy once we go offline. But What Chef has a question for us. What is your go-to comfort snack during this crazy time? So I say my comfort snack is the same that it's always been.
Tea.
I don't know what it is. Nothing's changed on that front. I feel like Roberto's got. I'm not really much of a snack person. I mean, ice cream. Ice cream's my favorite snack. I eat ice cream all the time.
Yeah, ice cream.
I don't know.
Ice cream, 5-pound bags of gummy bears.
See, I don't have candy or chips. That's not me.
I'm a chips and salsa guy.
Usually when I'll have granola bars.
I have entire aisles.
Wow, don't look at me like that.
I have entire aisles of the grocery store in my pantry for this kind of thing. So
I will say I did buy Cheez-Its the other day, so I have a bag of Cheez-Its.
Oh yes, I bought Ritz Cheez-Its. I did do that.
I got which kind though? Did you get original Cheez-Its or did you get one of the off?
I think I got I got the real Cheez-Its, but I got the cheddar sharp edition.
Oh, yeah. I got the extra toasted ones.
I got those too. I got those. I also have.
Wow, you guys, we all got the toasted Cheez-Its. I wonder if that was on purpose.
I wish I'd gotten Ritz crackers though. My largest
what
regret
does it
is
mean?
not having the Ritz crackers.
Are we defining the entire universe?
Burnt is better than not burnt.
I really wish I had bought those Ritz crackers.
I would not say that about the toast, the bread that I toasted today. I burnt it, and it suffice to say I could not eat it. So that is really the bread wasted. But we don't need to dive into that. Stanley says, "I'm in a live studio audience. Bucket list just got a little lighter." Well, Stanley, I'm glad we could do that for you. Yeah. Michael says, apples and mangoes for days.
All right, so I like to make what we call mango salad, where you actually peel and chop up the mangoes. You get some pepper and vinegar, and it's a really good snack. You'd be surprised. It's called mango salad. So it's a really good snack. You can also do something very similar with cucumbers and make a cucumber salad, and it's very tangy. It's very nice.
Now, Audrey, you haven't really said what your snacks are. We've already heard that Roberto list off a bunch of things. So
I don't know. I think it's been pretty random because it's whatever my mom decides to get. So
I see.
Recently, it's been
no control over your life. Understood.
Remember
I have
that
no
time?
control.
Remember when we went and we got sushi for my birthday? Right?
Yeah. Is that you? Did you have that?
That's my biggest when Corona people are like, what are you gonna do when Corona's over? I'm gonna go up the street and I'm going to buy an absurd amount of sushi.
It's the small things.
Yeah, it's the small things. Oh, you know what, Audrey? Have you seen 28 Days Later?
Why is this a question, Nanny? It should just be assumed that the answer is no.
Well, Roberto, you have, right?
Yeah, I've seen it, and
Okay.
I've seen 28 Weeks Later. I don't think I saw 28 Months, or maybe I did.
Well, it stops after 28 days later.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. 28
It
weeks
should,
later
it
is
does
not is not canon.
Well, anyway, but those aren't zombies. Romero zombies are the only zombies. That's the rules.
Right. But we're not talking about
See,
zombies. The
you
only
and I
reason
agree,
that
as people who are very nuanced in film, you and I agree to the Romero zombie rule.
Yeah,
we
of
adhere
course.
to it strictly.
Right. Now, back to Audrey, because we're not talking about zombies yet. Oh, we should definitely add.
I knew
have a
it.
story
I
about
knew
zombies.
that was going to happen. I knew that was going to come an episode. See?
Well, the reason that I brought it up is because Audrey just said, you know what? Actually, never mind. We're going to add it to the list and you're going to watch it and we're going to talk about it. You should probably watch it sometime soon because it'll be relevant to what we're going through right now, kind of.
Okay.
What, Resident Evil?
No.
Because that's relevant to what we're going through right now.
No, we're talking about 28 Days Later. Just
Well,
because
that
I was
too.
going to bring
Oh.
something up and I didn't want to spoil it.
Okay,
Because there's
that's
a really
fine.
nice moment. The moment with the horses. Okay. So I didn't
What?
want to, I didn't want to because it's a nice moment and you have to experience it with the film. If I tell you, you're not going to have the
Yeah,
same emotional
it's a spoiler.
response.
It's a spoiler.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
yeah.
So let's see. Stanley says, totally agree. Sushi is my end game for the C-VID nightmare. Apparently that's the what's going on with a lot of people.
Say the
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I hadn't even thought about it, and my good friend sent me a meme of it looked like an instructional layout, and it started off with, this is how to make sushi. And I was like, oh man, I'm so excited, I'm gonna make sushi. And then it just goes off into the different panels, just it gets so much worse to the point where the dude just ends up under the table and just quits life because he can't make sushi because it's impossible to make good sushi. So she sent me that and I was like, oh man, until this very moment I didn't realize
How much I miss
sushi.
Oh, how I didn't know what I had until it was gone.
Oh no.
Everyone
Yeah.
during this.
Now I do want to dive into this before we
The lack
and
of sushi is the real tragedy of this story.
before we end the podcast, I want to dive into this for a little bit because Audrey says that, why are you blinking so much, Audrey? Should I call the doctor?
I
Is it
can't.
a cry for help? Is it a cry for help? Are you okay?
Blink one for yes. Oh, now she's not blinking. Oh, okay.
Twice.
Audrey says that she's seen 2 episodes of The Tiger King.
Yes.
So
I
would
saw
you like to
1
tell
and
us
3.
about it? Wait, what? You didn't see them in order?
It
What
was
is...
not my choice.
Oh
my
my-
brother was the one who's like, you need to watch this, and I was like,
Wait,
okay.
so you didn't see the second episode, so you missed
Apparently
a whole story.
he deemed it unimportant, and he wanted to get to the Carol Baskin murder. I was like,
Oh my
okay.
Okay, but you're missing the sub.
See,
You're missing...
the true
I don't know what
crime
happened in
element of this.
episode
See, the true crime element of this is the thing that people really care about.
Right. Did she if she
Did
did
she do
it? This
That's
is how
the thing
she did
that's the thing
Yeah,
people are
okay.
obsessed about. Just like OJ.
Now, tell us, Audrey, please, because I think
Yeah.
I think Roberto and I have done enough movie reviewing for the episode. So tell us your review of the 2 episodes you saw.
Insane. And I kind of feel bad for whoever had to film that for 10 years, but at the same time, that's commitment. And then my brother's telling me that they burned the building with all the footage and stuff or something for a reality TV show. Am I spoiling it? I'm sorry.
No,
I don't
I mean
know.
whatever. At this point, if you're interested in watching The Tiger King, you'll have seen it.
And it just sounds insane. The whole time you're just am I losing brain cells right now, or what is going? I'm just so
I'm
confused.
losing brain.
It was just, it's great. I was talking to my friend today who lives in Belgium, and she was like, I thought this was like a stereotype of America. Like I didn't think that actually existed until I
Now,
watched this show.
I think
was
the
like,
thing
oh,
about
God.
it is, Roberto, if you want to mute yourself.
I thought I did.
No. So, the thing about it is I think that it was constructed in that way specifically so that it could be marketed that way.
Yeah.
Now,
Whoever
obviously,
like,
there's
produced
some,
it, made it, did a really good job. Obviously.
yeah, there's some grain of truth to it. It's not like they're so out of character,
Yeah.
but they've definitely been exaggerated for the marketing aspect of it and the branding of it. And like there's even been like there's been some characters, some of the people have actually said that they've like the way that things were shot, they were asked to be shot that way. So I feel like some of the truth was manipulated in order to set things up a specific way. So I'm not sure if that's like some irresponsible way of doing it on Netflix's behalf. Because
I mean, they're just doing it for the attention, right? Like to make it as crazy as possible.
Right.
And it worked,
but now
obviously.
Now how do you feel about like what's your opinion on that kind of filmmaking? Because it feels like the truth has been manipulated, but it's set up as if it is truth because it's a documentary.
That's true. It's weird. Like they even showed at one point a clip where they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the door and you're gonna open it and say hi," and I'm like, "Okay." Like I'm sure that seems more like staged than they didn't like they drove to the dude's house with him and then he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go open the door and say hi," but then they included the clip where they showed that, so it's like this weird balance where they're pretending, but then they also kind of show that they're pretending, which I thought was kind of like that kind of caught me off guard because it was like sort of a behind the scenes in showing the fakeness or the preparedness of it.
Right.
But then still, so you know it's happening. They just don't know, like, I don't know. I think it's weird. Like, I think passing it off as a documentary, it doesn't feel like a documentary. It feels super heavily edited. They're pushing the narrative of like the whole like murder feud thing going on. Like all of that is like the driving, like what's keeping people watching. It's the drama. It's not really a
So it's contrived. It's intellectually dishonest and contrived.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it feels like.
But people watch anyway because it's entertainment. So
right, but it's harmful entertainment.
Yes, and it also the whole like rescuing big cats thing makes me mad because I used to before I was gonna go into film, it was like conservation, and I really loved big cats, and so this kind of makes me mad because literally all of them are terrible in their own way, and it's like I don't feel like Netflix is
but really how do
promoting
we know
like
that
big cat conservation stuff like basically at all. And I'm like, isn't that the point, or is it just drama-filled entertainment? Like, I don't know. Like, what's bad about them making a series where they profit off of the drama around these big cats being treated so terribly, and then so they're profiting off of it just like these other people who have the zoos are. Like, it's kind of I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing.
So do you feel that it is genuinely exploitive? Do you feel like it is genuinely exploitive?
Yeah, I guess so. I think, like, even though I don't agree with a lot of things the people in there were doing, I don't know. I don't know if they knew exactly what was happening when they were being filmed for this show or for this documentary. And I don't think they knew it was going to be, like, a drama-filled, like, not really related to big cats.
Yeah, I definitely... I agree with that 100%. I think so. I do support Carole Baskin, and I think that I feel like yes, she did a lot of things in the past. It's clear because they have the footage and they showed it. they showed stuff where she was doing things wrong, but I genuinely believe, like, after having looked into what they're doing, that she does have better intentions. She might not be doing everything correctly or not. I can't testify to that, but I do feel like a lot of times what happens is when you set something up like that, people automatically have these expectations of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
But they forget that people change, not so much change, but improve on certain aspects of their life. And Carol Baskin absolutely could have been one of those people who was doing things that were not right, as far as like owning exotic animals and pets, but she might have learned from that experience and grown and tried to do something better for the animals. And I think that if we don't allow for people like that to take the opportunity, then it stops other people from doing the same and from improving.
Yeah. I don't know the full story behind. I only know what they showed me in those
Right.
episode 1 and 3, so I don't really know what the full story of like what she's been doing.
Yeah, I think they completely just focused on the whole, like you said, the whole aspect of, well, did she do it? Did she kill her husband?
Yeah.
Oh, she like passed her husband down the meat grinder.
Yeah, like that was pretty intense. Like they literally cut to a shot of a meat grinder.
Of the meat grinder.
Stock, like someone, Stanley said in the comments, like the meat grinder stock footage. I was like, that's pretty like dramatic, like plan to get an emotional reaction. Like, oh my god.
Wait a second. What?
Yeah.
The meat grinder was stock footage?
I mean, it kind of like I didn't think.
I mean,
of
I don't
that
really
immediately,
remember,
but I
but-
could definitely see it being just a
Wow.
stock clip.
Well, that's
'Cause
technically
it's
that
pretty, like,
makes sense
planned.
though, because I mean, when you think about it, that aspect is a reenactment type. Like it's not.
Yeah.
You know,
So like that's just to
Yeah.
get an emotional response. Like,
yeah, that's
shock
contrived.
from
That's
the
like
audience.
remember when we we were talking about like when Shane Dawson first started doing his different little docs and well I mean I don't say little dismissively because they were like huge and they get more views than anything like that. I was saying that in the sense of they're literally small bite-sized like pieces of content, but I realized how quickly that can be taken out of context. My point is remember that initially he got some backlash for the way in which he edited it being considered manipulative or like very overtly
Too
manipulative.
creepy. Yeah.
Like with his sound design choices
Yeah.
and the framing and sometimes the order of things. And then, so I think that when you're presenting something, and someone actually did an analysis, but the thing is, it's impossible, and especially at that time. And we all like Shane Dawson, and people genuinely like him, and he's a good person. He's very sensitive, so it's very hard to criticize him if you're a good person. But if you're even not well intentioned, and you're even just objective, it's hard because he has such a loyal and devoted following that criticizing him, even when it's valid, is just an invitation to massive hate and dislikes on your opinion and everything like that for just laying out a discussion or an argument. But here's the thing that I think is a valid kind of criticism in the sense that we relate this to Tiger King because they're presenting us with one thing or this premise and it's a lure to get us in, but like then we're shifting the frame very quickly in a contrived way that, you know, like you can argue that it's forced in some way. And there are aspects of where you can make that argument where we're presented with an insight or a theoretical expose on a controversial, polarizing person that is widely disliked. And it's become obvious at this point that we're going to be baited and allured with drama and conflict and tea, and it's ultimately going to end up being a redemption piece.
Yeah.
And there are people who have been like holding their tongue about that because they don't want criticism themselves, or they don't want to hurt Shane's feelings because they see how earnestly and how hard he's been working on his things. But Shane's a big old softy, which means that there's a realistic question as to is it possible that this person who calls themselves their friend, your friend, used you to rehabilitate their image, knowing that you will show the sides of them that you liked the most, and that the way they'd like people to perceive them is the way that they want everyone to feel about them the way you feel about them, and they know that that's what's going to happen if you tell their story, that you'll tell
Tana
them.
Mojo?
Tana being like the
Cough.
yeah.
Yes.
Jake.
Cough.
We literally, somehow he made most people, while showing us the truth about him while it being exposed, the thing that people take away from the Jake Paul documentary is not that he used Team 10 as a casting couch to sleep with Instagram models. That is not the takeaway from the Jake Paul documentary. The takeaway is that he's not such a bad guy, and he's not a sociopath Logan might be. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Like, that's the takeaway that most people get from that is, he's just a goofy, dumb kid, and isn't his relationship with Erica Costello so sweet? And then they break up literally 3 weeks after the thing airs, and that's like what people take away from it. Not that Jake Paul like did a very Harvey Weinstein like thing with his social media agency.
Mm-hmm.
That he literally made Team 10 his own casting couch.
That's the one thing that
Instagram models.
That's the one thing that makes me kind of like, I like Shane's videos and I respect him as a creator, but that's the one thing that I'm like, I don't really like that he does. It's like,
yeah, he's
make people who obviously messed up try and make us feel sorry
for very
for
messed up bad people, which
because he's too nice. That's like the problem. He's too nice to a fault.
I don't have a problem saying that Tana Mojo isn't a completely horrible like person. I've even defended her in Twitter once or twice of like, hey, you guys are taking this way too far. It's like, she's a stupid kid. Yeah, like, move on with your lives. Yeah. She's a dumb kid. It's like, I grew up in a small military town. You think that no, this is really basic crap. Like, this is something like, this is a cry for attention or a cry for help. This is not like, no, who cares? Like, if she wasn't famous, you guys wouldn't care. You like, so there's that. The Paul brothers remind me of like the dudes I grew up with that, like I grew up with friends like that, were adrenaline junkies and bored as hell and would do crazy stuff and everything. The difference is no one filmed it. I grew up with people just like the Paul brothers. Again, I have no issues with Shane. I love Shane. I think he's a gifted creator. I think he's a perfect example of like changing and evolving your brand and staying relevant with the times. But the thing that was explored early with him doing these things is that he knows a lot of people around him probably manipulate him. And he's very generous. He's not naive. He's just very forgiving and very trusting, and it's why he has such a sweet soul and we all like him. But the problem is when that's interjected into your craft as a filmmaker and you are presenting something as truth, there's no objectivity in it. It's not a documentary anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Tiger King, the parallel to this, because this is not to make a criticism of Shane Dawson, who I very much like and very much respect and adore, but I'm using this as a point of, because I saw something where somebody was talking about this, and it was a talk and a discussion about the requirement of objectivity in capturing documentary content, and they also applied the same thing to the way that things like MTV The Real World was edited and how Real Housewives is edited and like Love and Hip Hop and all these like trashy reality TV shows, how they're presenting something as reality but it's contrived.
Yeah.
And that there's a falseness interjected into what is now being presented as fact or as a replay of events. And the problem is that most people can't see through that. And you're, again, presenting it, and it's like, well, here's all the things. And it's like, and yes, those things did happen, but you're shifting the framing and the narrative to tell, like, the story that you want it to tell. And if you're also inserting yourself into it, it's even worse at that point.
Yeah. It's definitely tricky.
I don't really have an answer for it beyond, like, literally you remove yourself from the, like, you film the doc, you're not part of it, and you like, but it's hard, right? Like, oh, a movie that you probably really like, Romina, that Audrey's probably never seen is Almost Famous. That is actually a very similar.
Do not know.
You don't know about it at all? Nope. Okay.
Teenage boy follows around is like a local indie like rock band that's actually on the verge of making it big, and he ends up kind of making friends with, he like is really crushing on one of the groupies, and he ends up making friends with like the band and the groupies and the other people involved, and he ends up being around these famous people, but he's supposed to be writing a piece on this, and but then it becomes very involved because he becomes part of the story, and then he tries to write the truth in this expose, and he's so close to everybody though that it becomes, he could write this puff piece and protect his friends, or he can tell the truth and make his bones as a real journalist. And he makes his bones as a real journalist, but initially there's a conflict of how it affects his relationships, and that has to be reconciled, and you get to see everything. I didn't really spoil the movie for you, but I laid out the conflict, and
Okay.
if you, and so, but because it's more interesting to watch the nuance of how all of this evolves and the actual comedic situations that ensue, and the drama and the tension and the things, and the resolution is very I wouldn't say it's satisfying as much as it is. It's like, oh, that's more realistic as far as how this would play out. Like, it's so that's going on the list, Romina. Almost Famous.
Yeah, that should go on the list. So I guess I have some homework cut out for me. Make a
Your
spreadsheet, and all of the viewers have homework as well. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. That's at No Assembly Required Pod. And also leave us a review on Audrey, do you want
iTunes or Spotify? Can you leave reviews on Spotify? I think so. Can you? I honestly don't know. Anywhere
Worst
that
podcast
podcast is.
ever.
I'm checking. Can you leave reviews on Spotify? No, but we are on iTunes, and I think we're almost all caught up. I think there's one episode we're one episode behind, so yeah.
Woohoo! So you guys know what that means. This is going to be a wrap on episode 8.
Woot woot.
And
We made it.
Roberto is gonna take us out with an outro, because we can't go out because we're staying at home. We're responsible.
Just clarifying.
All right. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast. This has been your host, Red Romina, the girl who will give you a Vulcan death grip if you look at her the wrong way. Audrey Ember, a young apprentice in pop culture. And your host, Roberto Blake, the master of pain and suffering for his fellow host. This has been the No Assembly Required podcast. No audience members were harmed or roasted in the filming of this episode. Please leave us a review in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, and anywhere that podcasts are available. This has been the No Assembly Required podcast, where we talk about nothing.